Hey everyone, welcome to room 15. It's the 1st of June, and that means we're doing a monthly wrap-up for May. And a quick but important aside, if you're out there protesting now, stay safe, stay informed, wear masks, do all those things that will protect yourself, and keep on doing the good work. So the way I'm going to do this is start with my lowest rated books of the month, and go up to the highest. I've rated books 2 to 5 stars this month, so we got a bit of a mix. The first one we're going to start out with is Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. I picked up this book mainly because I like the cover. I haven't really read much fantasy magic books, and this was described as sort of a older Harry Potter with a female protagonist by a female author. It sounded like something I could be into. And it really just didn't do it for me. I did not like the ending one bit. The protagonist was okay enough. She wasn't really anything special. She reminded me of a cut-rate Jessica Jones. The basic premise of the story is our main protagonist is a PI, and she's going to investigate a murder / possible magic mishap that happened on the grounds of this magic school that her sister happens to work at. She's a PI, she has a drinking problem, her mom's dead, she has a sister that they're kind of estranged. She's Jessica Jones, but not done as well. I was much more interested in the storylines of the students at the school rather than Ivy, our main protagonist, who's like an adult going through her adult life, more interacting with the teachers and her sister, and her weird love interest, who was also a teacher. I don't know. I could have a lot to say about this book, but basically it's a little disappointing. It's not what I thought it would be. Okay, the first review of this says, a queer, older, quicker-paced Harry Potter. No. The thing interesting in this book is the magic system, and I really wish they touched more into that. Ivy, the main character, is not magic, and most of the other people she interacts with in this book are magic. And every time they start talking about how magic works and getting to the interesting bits of kind of the world building, she's like, oh, no, please stop. I'm not smart enough to understand that. I don't need to listen to this. Ivy. Please, I just want to learn about the magic. It wasn't bad. It kept my interest. It just didn't have that punch that I wanted. It wasn't an older Harry Potter. Alright, moving on. Next one we have is an essay from a collection of essays. I was really just interested in one when I picked this book up. I might go more into what the rest of this collection has to offer in later months. But right now, I don't think that's going to happen in June. This collection is called All Art is Propaganda, and it's a collection of George Orwell's essays on many things, like movies and literature and propaganda and art and boys' newspapers. All very pressing matters. I was particularly interested in Politics in the English Language, written in 1945 and published in The Horizon. So this is the one that I read and counted as part of my read total this month. Politics in the English Language is about how political writers aren't good at English. I disagree with a lot of what Orwell says in this. Linguistically, he has a problem with Latin and Greek loanwords in the English language and thinks that they should all be Anglican in a very basic sense. And no, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, George Orwell. The English language is made up of borrowing loanwords from so many different languages, especially Latin and Greek, so I have no idea what he was talking about there. Maybe I'm just too stupid to understand it. But now I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm smarter than George Orwell. Nonetheless, an interesting read. Alright, so I rated this one 3 stars. Next in the 3-star range is Lumberjanes, written by Noelle Stevenson. I love Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. I read it a couple years ago. It's a fantastic graphic novel, one of the best I've read from like a third-party publisher. I really, man, I love Nimona. I need to reread Nimona. But we're not talking about Nimona, we're talking about Lumberjanes. Lumberjane follows a group of 5 girls who are campers, kind of like Girl Scouts but more edgy, called the Lumberjanes. And they get into trouble and they explore around the forest near their campsite, and they find some mythical, magical, supernatural elements around there, and they use their Lumberjane Girl Scout skills to deal with them. I think it's a really cute concept. I think I would enjoy it if I was a little younger. I wouldn't be opposed to finishing up this series or just reading more of what it has to offer, but this one just, it seemed a little juvenile for me, and I knew that going in, so it wasn't a bad book. I like the art style, the relationships between the characters. I mean, the whole entire thing was fast-paced because it's very youthful, and that element kind of permeated throughout and influenced the pace of the novel. I really liked the art style in this. I liked how crazy it was. If you want to read something that has similar pacing that I think was done better, Gerard Way's Doom Patrol. This kind of reminds me of the kind of out of left field, fast-paced randomness that comes with Gerard Way's Doom Patrol. If you want some wild, random graphic novel, definitely Doom Patrol by Gerard Way. This is not bad. I rated it 3 stars. I just don't think it was, for me, right where I am in this point of life. I've had this sitting on my shelf for a while, and I'm glad I finally read it. I would recommend Nimona and Doom Patrol before you pick this one up. And my final 3-star rating is Half Witch by John Schoffstall. I get a lot of my books that I read based off recommendations from NPR book lists, and I think this was recommended on the 2018 book list. And it didn't completely let me down. I loved a lot of the concepts in this book. It's a book about a girl during, I don't even know what time period to describe this as. After Constantine, like Constantinople is still a thing, like the Holy Roman Empire, kind of that sort of vibe. She's moving from town to town every couple years because her father is a magician that never really follows up on his claims. And they have to move to avoid getting arrested. In this one town right at the edge of the Roman Empire, he gets caught and thrown into the dungeon. And to save her father, our main character has to travel into this magical realm that's right outside the limits of the Roman/human empire, over these mountains to go to the magical realm to get something for the person that has the authority to get her father out of jail. It's an interesting concept. She meets a young witch girl along the way who helps her begrudgingly. I liked the magic system in this as well, and it really goes into detail about how witches work and how the whole magical community and supernatural elements kind of coexist together. I really, really loved a lot of the elements of this book. Especially, there was a religious element to it that every time she took communion and held it into her mouth, she could speak directly to God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit, and she never knew which one she was going to get. I really loved that subplot. I wasn't expecting it, and it wasn't like a religious, dragged-down, preachy thing. It was a really good narrative technique, but I don't think the way this book ended did justice to the start of that plotline. It was kind of just dropped. It seems like this book was really gearing up for a sequel, but I wanted that content to be in this book. I rated this book 3 stars. I think it's definitely worth the read. Now, getting into 4 stars, I only have one 4-star rating, and that is the Handmaid's Tale graphic novel, which was written originally by Margaret Atwood and adapted by Renee Nault. The art style of this graphic novel really, really did it for me, and I loved the text in here. I don't have a physical copy. I read this in an ebook in Carnegie Library, and I usually hate ebooks, but I was so immersed in the art style and the story in this graphic novel that I read it really, really quickly and super enjoyed it. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me. I wish it was a little longer and a little more detailed, but I guess I could always read the novel if I wanted more details. But it was a solid 4 stars for me. They had it at my library through the ebook collection, so maybe if you're interested you can look at your library's collection. And moving into 5-star. I had 2 5-star ratings, And I technically cheated with this one. So this is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I love this book so much. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I really did it for me. So the reason I say I'm cheating is because I read the bulk of this in May, but I finished it up this morning, like the last 50 pages of it. But I'm considering it in May because the majority of it was read in May. So Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson is a really endearing story about a woman who is called upon by an old friend to take care of her stepchildren who are estranged to their father and also happen to spontaneously light on fire. How do I even describe this book? I love the protagonist so much. This protagonist is what Ivy Gamble was trying to be but couldn't be. I got this book originally for my sister, and I love the cover so much that I just decided to pick it up because I knew it would be a quick read. It's only 250 pages, and I got so into this. I read it in a couple days. It was such a great reading experience. His writing style is so approachable. The writing really fits with the mood and the narration for the character. I thought if this was really extravagant, lofty writing, it wouldn't have done justice to the character he was trying to create. It really fit with her voice, if that makes sense. If there were two children that would light on fire, they would act exactly like this. God, I love this book. And finally, one of my favorite books I've ever read, I read in this month, and it was Where Reasons End by Yiyun Lee. When I tell you this book destroyed me, I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. Cue the pictures of me crying while reading this book. There's so many. I attended the PEN America Lit Awards before I left New York, and this book won the highest honor of the night, like $75,000 or something like that. That's insane. Even just thinking about what happened in this book, it's based on a true story, which makes it even more emotionally gut-wrenching. This is about, this story is about a woman whose son died when he was 16 from suicide. Man, God. All of this book is her having conversations with her son who has since passed and trying to stay connected to him through writing. And they talk about memories, and they still have this mother-son relationship that is so effective and so realistic. She captures both their voices so well, and the really sad reason behind it is that she's writing through her own experience. And to tell you, I cried. I cried at least 8 times. All of these post-it notes that I've marked throughout this book are lines that made me close the book, get up, and think about it for a little bit. I finished this book in 2 days, but most of the time was just sitting there staring at a page, wondering how somebody could write something like this and still be human. I don't know why I do this to myself. That was an amazing book. I cannot recommend it enough. I do not see it on BookTube at all, which is criminal. And I could talk about this book all day because it's just so effective and so raw and so soaked in emotion that to not see anybody else talking about this feels like it's a little like gem that so PEN America isn't wrong. This is a $75,000 book. This is a priceless book as far as I'm concerned. This is a holy grail that's buried deep beneath the knowledge of BookTube. This freaking book. 2 days to read and your life will be changed forever. That's all I'm saying. And another thing, those are all the books that I read in May of 2020. I really hope you guys enjoyed going through this journey with me and listening to all my rambling. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. And sorry if you hear dogs in the background, we have too many. But if you read any of these books, if you are thinking about reading any of these books, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to talk more, my Instagram is @readergrams, so hit me up on there too. If you want to, you can subscribe to this channel for more book-related videos. I'll list all the books down below that I mentioned in this video. And I think that's it. I feel like I powered through this video. It's probably because I'm talking at like 2 times speed. Anyway, I guess that's it, huh?